Hey, welcome to another episode of The Breaks, the new show from Blerd Media, where we are breaking down the episodes from HBO's The Last of Us each and every week. This week, we are breaking down episode 4. Of course, you know who it is. It is your boy, Greg from Dad Pad Gaming, putting it down for the Blerd Media team. And then also, I have with me the big homie, C Diesel, from the Then and Now podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey man, I'm glad to be here, man. Finally able to cook up some more content with you guys. It's always a pleasure.
Oh yeah. Definitely so, definitely so. As we were talking about before we went live, I'm a bad person and I'm a hoarder when it comes to video files. So you know, I think this is gonna be fun because we both appreciate and understand the process of what goes in to making some form of a good edit, at least for the level that we're at, you know?
Right, exactly. It's a lot harder than people would like to try. I feel like.
Man, it's bad. It's bad. And I'll definitely say I think this will be kind of interesting because what I've learned is like since I've really dived into video editing, I look at TV shows and movies differently now.
Oh man,
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing yet, but it's a thing. Like, am I
it
alone?
it's really hard to do so because for me, it's the competitor in me. I see an edit or like especially if it's a really bad done edit. I'm like, I could have did that. I could have
Oh,
did that better.
most deaf. Like for me, the one that really gets me is music videos. Like
Oh
I
god,
soak up so much game from music videos. It's crazy. Oh
the
man.
edits to music videos are a lot more like intricate than people think. Like it's
Oh yeah.
I'll see like what was it, Cole Bennett? Like I'll see one of his things and he'll do some wild, crazy stuff. And I'm like, man, that probably spent hours to do.
I also hate TikTok now because I look at it. I'm like, these stupid cheap parlor tricks. Like, no, you didn't put salt on that ice cube and it blew up into smoke. I can see the cut right there, you know?
A simple hard cut.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But anyway, so like I said, we're gonna go ahead and get into episode 4 of The Last of Us. Just to break down to you the way that things will go for us here on the breaks. We can spoil anything about the show up until episode 4 of the show. That goes for the game as well. But we do want to try to remain respectful for any of those people that have not, for one reason or another, played this wonderful 10-year-old game. So
Right.
we can do a little bit of foreshadowing because obviously we've probably both seen and know where things are headed in one way or another. But we want to keep it hinting and not just kind of throwing it out there so that we don't upset any of those casuals out there because they are out there.
Sounds good to
Uh,
me.
but nonetheless, we'll go ahead and just get right into things. So I'll just break down and I'll pretty much summarize it. And at any point that you find something to be interesting, or anytime I find something to be interesting, just yell at me. We'll stop, we'll pause, we'll break down, we'll discuss those moments, and just kind of go from there.
Perfect. Let's
Yeah.
get into it. Man.
So episode 4 starts off interesting actually. It starts off with Ellie in a men's restroom off somewhere in the middle of nowhere. She's playing with this gun. She's kind of like doing the whole "you're talking to me." You must be talking to me. Yeah, and you know, and we're kind of watching her. It's real awkward, but we kind of get it. Now, the first thing that I notice here is because I mean, obviously, is the show will allude to later. Um,
Mhm.
so we don't have to say too much. But she's in the men's restroom. It's
Right.
like you have the choice. You went to the men's restroom. Like so already kind of like getting into some weird action there. But that doesn't last too long. She's like playing with the gun, not really putting respect on his name, not really realizing that she could just like shoot her own left toe off. Um
Right.
but she goes out, we see Joel outside and he's stealing gas from these cars that in reality would not have gas left in them. Because it's been like what 20 years since the apocalypse, right?
Yeah. 'Cause I think because it happened in like what 09, 08, somewhere around there, like early, like
Oh,
maybe early 2010s, I think.
yeah. So okay, so they changed it for the show because I think the game was and they change it for relevancy because I want to say in the game the outbreak started in like 2012, 2013 when the original game came out, and then they
Right.
time skipped up to like 2023 or 2025 or whatever. But I think if the show starts 2003, so and goes to 2020. So yeah, so so it's been like 20 years. These cars have just been sitting here. Somehow they still have gas in them. They kind
Oh,
of give us the line of, "Oh well, this is almost water."
the funny thing I like about it that they do here is the characterization of the characters. With Joel, up until this point, he seems like the know-all, wise older, and then whenever Ellie like presses him, I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing that? That's cool. I want to know." And he's kind of like he's bullshitting for a second, just like, "Oh, he's
Right?
like, oh, you don't know." He's like, "Yeah, I don't know."
Yeah, which was hilarious because I mean, for a minute, because I don't really know. I know it has something to do with air pressure and suction.
Right.
Like I don't really know. So as he's like, "Oh yeah, it's going to good scrapping," I'm like, maybe this guy is right. Ellie pulls his car, and I'm like, "Oh damn, me and Joel are both dumbasses." Yeah, it's crazy. Um, but from there, I want to say, if memory serves, this is where she actually pulls out the pun book for the first time,
Hmm.
and I can't remember the first particular joke right now, but apparently, from what I understand, the first joke that she reads out of the pun book on the show is the same exact pun that she reads out of the game for the first time. Oh, and that's
Yeah,
what
they,
it was. It was, even if you push the envelope, it'll always remain stationary, is what it was. Which is a terrible joke. Um, but for Miss, we get Joel, and he just kind of, it's like, go wait in the car. Like he's not trying to hear it. Fast forward, he steals the gas that should be water, but he steals it. They're driving off, and we get a scene that I didn't think we were gonna get because the
mm.
last episode went so different. Shout out to my boy Cap, and you, because he was a little bummed out last week, but we got the mag.
Oh man.
Uh,
I think it's so great that they're able to recreate these scenes directly from the game and do them well. Because I felt like they'd be really cringy initially when I'm thinking about like, oh, they're just gonna try to copy paste, but it's being done very tastefully, in my opinion.
yeah, it's the weirdest thing because, and I've referenced this with a couple of our other co-hosts throughout the runtime of the breaks, but there have been so many movies, especially like the god awful Doom movie,
Mhm.
where there's like that very hand-fisted moment where it's like they look into the camera and they're like, this is from the video game, and we're all supposed to pop and we never pop. But here it's done in such a subtle way that it's like,
Mhm.
it's the pun book, it's the magazine, and it makes it so much sweeter because they build it in very organic, like, right?
Right. It makes me feel like old, significantly older when I'm like I was with a friend recently that had not played the game, and
Oh
I'm
man,
reacting to this stuff, and she's like, what is wrong with you? What is going on?" I'm like, "You don't get it. You don't
right? You
understand."
don't even go here, like you gotta let them know. But that's like the cool thing because I'm a terrible adult. I don't read books. I don't, like, every now and then, but I don't read a lot of books. So especially when it comes to stuff like Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings, and you've always got those snobs. Even manga, like I read some manga sometimes. You always have that snob. Again, shout out to Perry, where he's like, "Yeah, I didn't read the manga. Wait till they get to this part in My Hero."
Have
And
my own equivalent, Perry and Otis. He's the same way when it comes to
oh,
manga.
I'm sure, man. It's like,
Oh
you
man.
know what, Otis and Perry both, screw you guys, okay? With your manga master race, we don't like you guys because we're gonna edit our videos, we're gonna blur out your faces, we're gonna make you look like flicking monsters, and we're gonna have a good time with our animation. Um, but this time around, like, we are the superior. Like, we're just, yeah, wait till it gets to this part. But nonetheless, we get the magazine. She's the whole, oh wow, how does he stand with that thing, and and why is it sticky, which is awesome because, again, I didn't think we were going to get that. It's one of those things that was funny and it's a fan favorite moment, but again, after last week's episode, like it was a shocker that we still got that. I think it was the nice way to deliver it.
Right.
Yeah. But of course, you know, we keep on driving. We get a lot of shots in the car that are parallel to like shot for stuff we get from the game. Ellie is looking at the map. Joel is trying to navigate his way through. They're kind of, I don't know if I would say lost, but you know, they're trying to figure their way out. I guess Joel is used to reading the map. They don't have MapQuest even then by 2003 yet, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I'm honestly surprised that Ellie was able to read it as well as
I
she
know,
was.
right?
I'm like, you've never traveled anywhere. You just know how to read a map. Like you
Right.
just okay.
Yeah, and she's like, "Hey, man, I've been in a car for 2 days," which lets us know, you know, exactly they've been driving for 2 days, which is crazy. But they end up pulling off to the side road, and um, this is outside of our first wave of puns. This is where we kind of get our first, not even hint of there being some type of like bond between Joel and Ellie, but this is the first time we actually see that bond is truly forming. We have what Ellie's like, "Hey, let's light a fire." Joel's like, "No, people could see the fire. We don't have to worry about the infected, but people are the problem." And drops a line that scares her because she's like, "I mean, what are they gonna do? Rob us?" And he's like, "Nah, they're gonna do more than that."
Right. I think what I liked about that part is how you start because he asked her, he's like, "So why would I not do that?" Like it felt like a father talking to a child. Like, why is that a stupid idea?
Right, because it was like, and that's what's interesting is like in the game, like you kind of get some of those moments, um, but I mean it's a video game, so they can only portray them so much more. But there's so many more subtle moments that are being created within this show that's giving us those teaching moments, because that's exactly what that was. He's like, "No, but why wouldn't we do that?" And makes her answer, and she's like, "I mean, infected," and that's like you said. When he's like, "Nah, man, the people. People will see the flames, and they might do more than just rob us." Which kind of scares Ellie because she's a little uneasy. She ends up falling asleep. Um, Now, to me, what we see Joel. He pops up and he's on guard all night.
Mm-hmm.
And what I assume is he kind of felt bad and maybe kind of got himself on edge after he said that to her. And he's like, "All right, well, maybe I should stay on lookout tonight and make sure she's good." Like, what was your thought on that?
So my interpretation is what I kind of got from it is that he is kind of going through this thing of cycling of he's failing to protect women in his life. So obviously with his Sarah and then with Tess, I feel like he's at a point now where he one is trying to keep Ellie at a distance because he doesn't want to get too close. That's why he like says, "Oh, we're not family. Like I can't
Right.
let you get too close to me."
Yeah, because
And
he
then on
says
top
it.
of
He's like,
that,
"You're cargo."
right, while also acting like a father figure at the same time. So he's trying his best to keep it at a distance. And then at the same time, it's like, all right, I have to protect her because I failed twice now. I can't let it happen again.
Yeah.
So he's up all night long.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we can tell that it keeps him up all night, because when Ellie wakes up, he's got the coffee. Like, God knows how old that
Mhm.
coffee is.
Oh
Uh,
man.
right. Ellie says it smells like burnt shit. Which I believe it. Like, what does, I don't know, 10, 20-year old coffee smell like after so long? It's wild.
I mean, I'm drinking black coffee now all of a sudden, just kind of I'm
Yeah,
having
I
to
saw that.
work and whatnot. And I that smells bad now. That's fresh coffee. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it had to smell awful.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it had to be real bad. But nonetheless, Ellie doesn't like the smell of coffee. That's like one of the first moments that we kind of see Joel like not even mean about it, but like kind of like jokingly kind of like trolling her, like, "You don't like coffee? Like what?" So so of course, like they get back in the car, they're rolling. At this point, the game they go to Pittsburgh, but in the show they're going to Kansas. Um but they get to a tunnel on this highway, and the road's blocked off. So just like the game, they sit there, they look at it for a minute, and they have to kind of back up and take the street route. So Of course, we run into Gimpy Limp guy. He's kind of
Mhm.
hobbling out. He's calling for help. Now, did it hurt you that that line wasn't delivered the way it was in the game?
A little bit, but I think they fixed it for me, like, not too long after that with the next set of lines that came through.
Yeah, definitely. Because that was my thing. Like I was sitting there, and she's like, "Are you gonna help him?" He's like, "Nope." But like I'm sitting there, and I'm that jerk. So like I'm sitting there, and I'm mumbling like right next to my wife. Kids are across the room, like he ain't even hurt. He ain't even hurt. He ain't even hurt. And he's just like, "Nope." And I'm like, come on, man. But regardless, this is a really interesting moment though, because um something that I find to be interesting is the show is doing a really good job of the video gaming every human interaction here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like there's not an NPC, and everybody in this show for the most part, except for like the random extras in the background, are realized characters to some form or another. um so as we get into the gunfight here, one of the first things that happens, once he convinces her, like, hey, like, we're gonna be okay, but I need you to get into the crack of this wall while I get this sorted out. He shoots one of the guys after he misses the first time. We all know
Mhm.
that damn rifle has some sketchy aim to it. It sways so bad.
I hated it so much.
Yeah, I like, it's one of those things. Once you get good with that weapon, you are a beast with it. But there's a learning curve to it. Um, but he hits the first person, and we get, which I think is kind of cool, because I think those are the ways that even in action they stay true to the video game, because it would have been too easy for them to actually cut over to the bad guys and have them, get him. But we actually stay over Joel's shoulder. He's crouched
Mhm.
behind the counter, and just like we would in the game, we hear them from across the parking lot going, "You motherfucker!" And at that point, I'm nervous. I'm like, they're gonna flank. They're gonna flank.
Right.
Yeah, clearly their
I think
AI wasn't up to it though.
I've literally, I know everybody's doing, like, the side-by-side comparison shots from the game to the show now, and it looked like that whole over the shoulder shot looked like a
Yeah,
legit part of the game, and even like you said with the lines of them delivering dialogue after they got shot, I'm like, "Man, this is done so well." Like, I'm watching the game, and I like, when it comes to a video game adaptation, like, that is that in the truest form to
yeah,
me,
definitely.
and something like that.
I think that one of the things that they've really been nailing is knowing what portions of the gameplay to incorporate, and
Mhm.
knowing what portions of the narrative can can show from the game. Because what we're seeing a lot is, like, in the first couple episodes when they run into the clickers. In that first episode, it was what, the clickers were at the, I think it was at like a, was that like a library or something of the sort.
Was it
um
yeah, something like that.
yeah, it was
Some
like,
kind of some kind of public like area, like sanctioned area.
yeah. And then oh no, I think it was a subway, maybe. Was it yeah, no, office building. It was the office building is where you first run into the clickers in the main game. It was like the office building. um but in the show, what happened is they merged the museum, where you have a human enemy encounter, with the office building, and they put them together and just put the clickers in the museum, and that's how they kind of worked that out. And I mean, we kind of got some of that here, because what we see is, as this fight continues on, Joel gets does end up actually getting flanked by a kid, pretty much. um
Mm, yeah, man,
he
this is the part.
Yeah, he hops up on him, and he's choking him and choking him and choking him. And Ellie is like, she's looking at her switchblade. She's like, what do I do here? And she ends up going out there with the Yistel.
I got the strap.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So hits Buddy in the back, and oh my god. Um
It looked like she paralyzed him from my end. Like, it looked
Yeah,
like 'cause he was asking them to carry him to his mother at one point, I felt like, if I
yeah,
remember right.
yeah.
So I was like, "Dang, she paralyzed him with one shot in the back. That's crazy."
And like, shout out to that actor because
Oh,
like
bro. Oh my
like
god.
for him to have a handful of lines, like you could just hear the desperation, the fear, and the anger in his voice just at the beginning of his encounter with Joel. Because as he grabs up on him and he's trying to like incapacitate Joel, he's saying like, "Look what you did! Like, look what you did!" And he's really gunning for this murder until he gets that bullet in the back. And just him saying like, what was it? He's like, my mom is like right over here, like we don't have to fight anymore. My
I'll
name's
tell everybody you're good.
Yeah, my name's Brian. And then he
Right.
starts like crying. Oh my goodness,
Pleading for his life, man.
it
Anytime
made
that's
me
done
feel
well,
bad. I'm like, Brian, no. God.
I think it kills me even more whenever the dude, like the thing, like something like that's happening and you don't see it. So all you hear is that voice pleading for mercy. So you have to use your imagination, which was probably exponentially worse than anything you would have saw
Yeah.
on screen. It was crazy. Oh man, it was nice.
And for me, this was like a very interesting part because what we've seen is like Ellie kind of like sliding to the side at the beginning of the show when she sees Joel kill the security guard that bought the drugs from him earlier, and also when we seen Ellie with the switchblade kill the stalker that was underneath the safe house that Joel and her went
Mhm.
to. Um, Now here we are, and Ellie shoots him, and she realizes that the violence is really ugly. And
Mhm.
where at the beginning of this episode, she's pointing with the gun, she's kind of like smirking about it. She thinks she's cool. The next time she uses this gun for real, and she freezes up, and like that was kind of heavy. Like,
I feel like you start to think she's a sociopath initially because she's killing clickers and toying around with them. She's not hesitating to kill almost at the FDA. Oh my gosh, refresh my memory.
right, fuck the FDA.
Right,
Fedra.
the Fedra. Like any she's not hesitating to bring forth violence to those people. But when it's an actual person, this person is like trying to appeal to her human side of like, hey, here's my name. You know my name now. You can't kill me. Help me, my mom. That's when you start to see her kind of break down, like, oh man, this is real.
Yeah.
This isn't a game.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was so interesting because for a while Bella Ramsey has been doing a very good job of giving us a Ellie that is definitely her own, but is also very close to something that we all know and love already.
Hmm.
There has been that concern where I'm like, well, she seems to be a bit more dark, a little rougher around the edges than what I'm used
Yeah.
to. And in this episode, we kind of get a glimmer of the Ellie that we're more familiar with, where there's like that childlike innocence to her. Because, like you said, she realizes at that point it's not a game, and she doesn't know what to do once this kid is like bleeding from his tailbone and like saying, "I can't feel my legs," and begging for his life and take me to my mom.
Hmm. You
So
start to see that even more when. Well, I'm getting ahead. Go ahead. We'll
yeah,
get to
yeah,
that
yeah,
point when we
yeah.
get to it.
Okay. So nonetheless, Joel's like, "Hey, get out of here." So she goes back into the crack, and Joel finishes the job. Couple scenes later, we actually find out that he did not shoot him, but stabbed him in his chest.
Hmm.
Which I don't know if that's more humane or not. Really?
I don't think it's more humane. I think he literally was just trying to conserve ammunition at that point. Like Joel, I feel like he's slightly disconnected so much so that where like everything is about survival, and especially when he's protecting this girl that he probably sees like his daughter at this point, he's like nothing else matters.
Right.
Everybody else
Joel's
doesn't
like,
matter.
is you is or is you ain't. Done.
Hmm.
Yeah, but regardless, so Brian's out of there. He's checking in a Heartbreak Hotel. Um,
R.I.P.
right, definitely. Rest in peace to that guy. So, which I thought was kind of interesting because at this point, we kind of get a moment that kind of calls back to The Last of Us 2 almost. Because I don't know if you remember, like during the marketing for that game, one of the things that they were pushing is that when you have enemy combatants, they want you to feel that the human combatants are indeed human. And they made a point to have, you know, while those guys are retreating, they're like, he got Brian, he got Brian. And it's like that moment where it's like, yeah, I guess this guy does have friends and a mom over there, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe these guys aren't necessarily bad guys. Which as we move forward, you know, we'll kind of discuss how the thin line between good and bad guys works within the world of Tilu. Um, but we switch over to Kathleen. And to me, Kathleen is great value Marlene.
Yeah, man. I don't know if it was the acting, like it wasn't a bad performance to me, but it did feel kind of off because
Yeah.
it felt like she lacked conviction in like the things she would say and do. Like she was always
Yeah.
questioning herself. And I was
Yeah.
like, so do you want to do this or do you not want to do this? You seem like you do. Like you in your words, it sounds like you're like fully committed to it. But then when you say it, it sounds like you're not sure.
Yeah. And I agree, because like to me there was like, when you first see her for a minute, you're like, all right, maybe she is a bit of a badass. But then she starts talking to this guy like immediately after she stops naming off the names, and she's like, where's Henry? And we're like, ooh, Henry, hey, we know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
She literally switches up and is really human about it. And there is a large air of uncertainty to the way that she's handling the situation. And she's asking, like, hey, like, where's Henry? And this guy's a doctor. And I mean, long story short, because that scene's not too important, but he's like, I'm a doctor. I'm your only doctor. You're not going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and
I do
behold,
I do like how they get into the morality thing there because obviously they had it to where the doctor probably was a part or knew that he got her brother killed to an extent. I don't want to give
yeah.
away how it happened. And he's like, "Look, you got to get over the past." Like he's like, "So now you want to get over the past? Now you want stuff to be cool? Like
Yeah.
what if
Yeah.
before?"
She definitely pulled his card on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Which I find kind of interesting with the theme of the Last of Us being, as crazy as it sounds, being love. And that's what both Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann, the co-creators of The Last of Us, always said about the first game, is that the theme is love and what love could make you do even in the craziest of situations. You know, in episode 1, obviously the love and the love lost was Sarah. Episode 2, the love and the love lost was Tess. Episode 3, obviously we got the love and the love lost between Bill and Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And episode 4, and on the way up to episode 4, we kind of see all the ramifications of how love affects the people around those situations. And in episode 4, it's clear Kathleen loves her brother. So I think that as we see the way that Kathleen is acting, and she's uncertain but kind of pushy and kind of sketchy about the way that she's handling this like militia group of grunts. Maybe that was the angle they were going for here, is, oh well, she had a loved one that was lost too, and now she's crazy like Joel, but different. I don't know.
Which I think you kind of get it. It's the love aspect, but a little bit more through like the lens of revenge, I guess.
Yeah.
Because once she's like, okay, I know who did it, I know where they probably are, and getting into well, like, I'll let you continue a little bit on with what can makes things up. Where I want to get too far ahead of you.
Yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, so as the doctor guy is like, I'm the doctor, you're not gonna kill me. Uh 1 second here. Yes, princess. You want some pretzels and goldfish? I'm doing the show. You should be happy this isn't a live show. Okay, I will go get you a snack. I'm gonna go get her a snack real quick.
Oh man.
Yeah. Um, but back to it. So, as we said, so Brian's dead body pulls up with a couple of these other militia grunts,
Mm-hmm.
and Kathleen goes up front. She sees them there, and she's concerned. So we know that Kathleen's not a full-on monster.
Right.
And she asks, like, hey, like, can we save them? No, I have a doctor. Like, can a doctor save them? Probably not. All right, bet. She goes and just smokes the doctor.
Right. He's like, no point.
Right.
It seems like her morale, like, it feels like she's wearing this mask in front of everybody of like trying to be this all-knowing, like stoic leader, and then she's just wearing that, looking for excuses to be a monster, is from my perspective.
Yeah, which was really goofy in like terms of leadership, um, because like it's a doctor, and it's clear that he wasn't opposed to like working for your militia group. He's like, don't kill me, I'm a
Mm.
doctor. Like, what are you doing? But that doesn't matter. Kathleen don't care. Kathleen don't give a shit. Call her Honey Badger. But anyway, so after she smokes him, we get this guy pulling up. My kids called him the Rizonator.
The rest of the
Because my guy, he came up with all the Riz. He had this super clean, silky, salt and pepper beard with a clean slick back. It's like he had to slide by Bill's house and hit that hot shower because this man is the cleanest dude in the apocalypse.
all the Riz, we could pull it smooth, man.
Now, fun fact, I don't know if you know, but that is actually the original voice actor of Tommy.
Really?
Yeah. So in the show, his name is Perry. His real name loses me right now, but yeah, that's Tommy. And it's really weird because knowing that it's Tommy, and I challenge you to go back and listen to that episode. It like he's like Troy Baker speaks Joel in a different voice, but
Mhm.
Tommy's voice is Tommy's voice. Like that's his natural voice. So once I kind of like heard his voice, I'm like, this dude. And then in the post episode, they revealed that. I'm like, I knew it. Here.
It's that stuff like that alone is how I know that the people working on this show were fans of the source material.
Yeah.
Because not only with Tommy, but I think in like the first or second episode with Marlene, they showed that the voice act, like the actor that played her, she auditioned to be the voice actor initially. So I
Yeah.
was like, dang, so you guys are really doing your due diligence to like do this stuff. And maybe it was a happy coincidence, maybe, but it just seemed like too well done and too well placed to me.
So the thing with the Last of Us series, there are two showrunners for the show. There's a guy who did Chernobyl, which was another like really like critically acclaimed HBO series. And then there is Neil Druckmann, who is one of the co-creators of The Last of Us. So I'm sure that has a lot to do about why this show, like, while it does make changes, why it is still staying so loyal to the source material, because it's Neil Druckmann's baby. So he's wanting to kind of keep some of that integrity from the original content there.
Mhm.
But nonetheless, we get Kathleen with her really, really jacked up sense of like reasoning. She's just like, yeah, you see this? Henry called these guys in, which makes no sense. Like, I don't understand why they would believe it, but they're just like, yeah, screw Henry. Let's go find him. And
It's crazy that people are like, oh man, this is an apocalypse. People are crazy. I'm like, it feels like I'm looking in a mirror of society right now, as far as like
bruh,
maybe canceling somebody or like putting a narrative on somebody. People don't question it. They see something that makes maybe a little sense and then just run with it.
yeah, it's crazy. Which man, that was like the weirdest thing to me, and I think it was like the first time that I think I truly kind of like had a moment where I disconnected from this series, is because like it was like one of those moments that was clearly the blind leading the blind,
Mm-hmm.
because like she says it and it doesn't make any sense, but no one questions it. And I'm not sure if they just fear her. I'm not sure if it was just like a plot hole in the writing, but they're just like, all right, yeah, Henry did it. And she just like gives piss poor excuse of, well, I think it was something like, yeah, we know that he's out there and he probably found a radio.
Maybe I'm thinking too hard into it, but for me, having again, this is the college educated black man in me, working in a lot of sociology stuff. The one thing that I've noticed about human nature and a lot of people throughout history is that when people are going through times of strife and grief, they just want something to blame their pain and their struggle on. They don't
Oh
care what it
yeah.
is. You want something, so you point them in a direction like a loaded gun. They gonna shoot no matter what's in front of them.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah, I could
fact she
see
could
that.
be like, kill anybody that even you would think works with them, and people are just gun ho for it. They probably were going through, like, they were hungry, they're tired, some of them are probably sick in pain. They're like, oh, I can go kill something. All right, I'm taking my anger and my pain out on
Right.
something.
Right. Screw Henry. That's and that was the song that they sang, and they went after good old Henry boy.
Mm-hmm.
Um so from here, she rallies up the troops. They're getting in the tanks and the jeeps and the military trucks. Um and they are looking for Joel and Ellie and Henry and Sam. So we get the scene where Joel is peeking out the window. He's looking like Rosie the nosy neighbor. And he says, "All right, we'll stay for a little bit. Looks like they're searching through apartment buildings now. But they'll probably start searching through these businesses soon, so we got to keep it moving." Um Before doing so, he takes a moment to talk to Ellie about the Brian situation. And
Mm-hmm.
he's really struggling with it. Like he just can't find the words. Um I thought this was like a really cool moment personally, because this is the first time that he's trying to actually convey some type of like sympathy and emotion for her blatantly. Like it wasn't like one of those like sly like, shut up, you don't know nothing, and then like looking over his shoulder to make sure that she's cool. Like he was legit like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, do you want to talk about it?
The funny thing is, you can tell he's been dissociated from like people for so long. He's like, man, I'm really suck at this. She's like, yes, you suck at this.
Right. Yeah, I want to say, I think she even slid in a pun there. I think she might have slid in a joke there. I can't remember for sure. But from there they start hiking up the stairs, and at that moment, that's when we get another famous line from the game, where she says, "Hey, back then when we were on the road, how did you know that guy was trying to trick us?" And he makes it clear, it's like, I've been on both sides. Which
I've
again,
been out here. I was like that back in the day.
you know what I'm saying? Did you quote that line but while it was being said?
I didn't because I was like, I wanted to like experience it for the first time almost.
Yeah.
I was like, how are they gonna do this? I was like, they can't change this one up.
Yeah, they couldn't. And they didn't. And I hit the line right with them. And at that point, my firstborn son looks over to me. He's like, "Yo, Dad, how many times have you played this game?" Like, I beat this game at least 10 times. Easily at least 10 times. Probably closer to 20. And he's like, "That's kind of impressive."
I want to replay it again because I've yet to play the second game yet. I've avoided.
Oh, you
I don't
haven't?
know. I don't know how, but I've been able to avoid every single spoiler to do with that second game up
What?
until
You don't know
I don't
anything?
nothing, nothing,
Nothing? Oh my
nothing.
god.
So I've been
Oh
able
my.
to avoid it. At some point soon, I know I have to because they're going to get into it with the show. I'm gonna buy the second game because that's still cheap. They didn't jack it up to $70 like they did the first game yet. I think that's still like around 40 right now.
I
So
I wish
next
I could
payday, I'm for
hug
sure
you,
picking
sir.
that up.
I really wish I could hug you.
When I want to avoid spoilers, I avoid spoilers at all costs if I'm trying to
Yeah.
avoid them for real.
Yeah, you
'Cause
gotta,
I enjoyed that first game too much to let somebody spoil that second game for me.
yeah, definitely get to it. Like, just, oh gosh. It's a heavy one. Like I've only managed to play it once because it was so heavy. Um
Damn.
but I'm I want to get back to it. I think I'm gonna wait until after the show is over and maybe like review season kind of rolls into like summer when the game releases, kind of slow down a bit.
Mhm.
Um I'm also kind of waiting to see if we're going to get some type of like a remastered PS5 version, so I can
Oh,
play it at the prettiest for the. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, like it's good now, and they even did like a PS5 patch for it where it runs at
mhm.
like 14, 40, 60 frames and stuff. But I'm gonna try to wait and see if we might get a full on 4K remaster and then run that way about it.
Push it to the limit, man. I'm excited. Hopefully they do it. I'd pay for it.
Yeah, I'm the person that's paid for every single release of The Last of Us except for the PC version that's not out yet. I bought PS3, PS4 remaster, and I bought the PS5 version. I bought the DLC when you had to buy the DLC, and yeah, I'm
Funny story. Initially, like me playing the game initially at all, I knew nothing about it. I had a buddy back in yeah, this is middle school. It was 20,
oh my
2014,
god,
2015.
middle
I
school.
was I was in middle school. I
Tell
had a
me I'm
buddy
old
that
without telling me I'm old. Middle school?
middle school.
Fuck.
My buddy had the game and he was gushing about it. I'm like, all right, bro, I guess it's good. I ain't played it before. And this is shout out to Jonah. This is my boy to this day. He went and got the game, brought it to school, and gave it to me. He's like, dude, go play this and then come back and we'll talk about it. And I went and just like lost myself. I think I started on Friday and I don't think I slept. I played that game for like 12 hours straight till sun came up the next day. I was like, man, not too many games that capture me that much where I just cannot stop playing. I have to know what's happening next.
Yeah. Goodness, this guy said middle school. I think my middle school groundbreaking game was Metal Gear Solid 2.
Oh,
Because
man.
I want to say I think by the time Snake Eater came out, I was in high school. So yeah, that tells
That
you.
that the Arkham series and like the like Brotherhood, like Assassin's Creed, The Last of Us, and Arkham were like the three games that revolved around my early gaming adolescence. Outside of
Man,
like Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect was a big part of it too, but
man,
that was elementary school.
what a time, man. Elementary school. You wait. What was it? Which one of those was in elementary school?
Mass Effect, the first Mass
Oh
Effect game.
my god, Mass Effect was elementary school for you.
My mom did the black mom thing where she's like, all right, I got all A's in my report cards. I'm like, mom, can I please have a game? She's like, all right, cool. And she went to the bargain bin, GameStop, I guess, and just picked it out because it looked cool, I guess, and gave it to me. Game was way too advanced for what I think it was like 7 when I played it. So I tried to get through it, couldn't because I couldn't understand what the hell to do, and then came back to it like 2 years later and got obsessed with it and beat it.
Bruh, elementary school was the transition from Sega Genesis to the Nintendo 64 and the PS1 for me.
Dang, boy.
My goodness, you young individual with your youth, you. My goodness. Oh, fuck, I'm old. But anyway, we, gosh, I'm old. But yeah, we get Joe to give us the line of, "I've been on both sides." So after we get that, we cut back to Kathleen and Perry, who is secretly Tommy.
Mhm.
They're kind of searching through some stuff and come up to a storage room. Now, for me, the storage room was interesting because in the game, we find our first bloater, of course, when we're with Bill in the gym in a storage closet.
Mhm.
Now, here we are in the middle of this building in a storage closet, and there's this weird sinkhole that's breathing in the middle of the floor. Just sitting there, breathing heavy like a fat kid. And she's just like, we'll deal with that later. And did you see how Perry looked at her?
He was like, the fuck? Hold on. Can we cuss on her?
Yeah.
It's
Sorry.
like, the fuck is wrong with you? we gotta tell everybody about this. Like, cause
Yeah.
they know what it is.
Yeah. And I thought that was interesting because where we as the audience, and as we've already kind of discussed, we've kind of seen two sides to Kathleen, where it's like the pretending to be a hard ass, and then also the part where behind closed doors she was really unsure and kind of finicky and shaky the way that she was dealing with the doctor before she killed him. And then
Mm-hmm.
she's kind of giving us some more of that finicky uncertainty here. And Perry is looking at her like, "You're an idiot. Like, did you not see what's going on in there? Why are we not prioritizing this? Like, Henry is one guy. Like, why are we not trying to figure out what's going on here? Kill it with fire." She's like, no, it's fine. No worries.
I can't wait to see like people that didn't play the game, seeing their reaction to the first bloater, and like plus seeing like how well they do this, because I know it's going to be a good bit of CGI probably, but I want to see how well they fuse the CGI with the practical stuff, because
I
they've
don't,
been doing that so well so
I don't,
far.
I don't know, man. I don't think there's gonna be CGI. I think there
Really?
might be some, but
Mhm.
you know the guy who's doing the practical makeup and does the clickers and stuff is the same guy who did like Vecna for the
Ooh,
Stranger Things. He also did in House of Dragons where King to whatever King Daenerys or whatever his name was, when his face
yeah.
starts falling off and it looks like CGI. That was
Mhm.
actually all practical.
Oh yeah, that
And
dude's
yeah, so
he's gonna be the next Tom Savini the way he's looking,
yeah,
man, because
he's a
he's
dog. And
wow.
I edited his name into our last episode. I forget what it is now. But he's really talented. He actually did like even like the elf people, like the little midget elf people or little people, elf people, for Harry Potter that had like the long creaky noses and stuff.
Oh, the little goblins.
Yeah, so he's been like creeping around
Oh
through
yeah,
Hollywood and doing like really prolific stuff
he's been
within.
around for a while
Yeah.
then.
Um, but nonetheless, they leave and they go back on their crusades. Um, and from there we come back to Joel and Ellie. As the night's kind of coming to an end, which this episode was one of the shorter ones. So the
Mhm.
episode kind of comes to an end as they find refuge at the top of these stairs in a particular building. There was like another little cutaway where they found like a hideout for where Henry and Sam were previously staying, but nothing really came of that except for they found that they were out of food, so they had to be on the move, you know, to some degree.
Right.
Um, but essentially, Joel and Ellie are getting ready for bed. Um, we get Joel, who's had a long day. He didn't get any sleep the night before.
Man, I
He's
feel like in the show and in the game, you forget how old he is. Like, this is a
yeah,
50-year-old man. He's going
yeah,
off like no sleep, fighting for his life, running through stealth, and then he walked up like what 300 flights of stairs. I'm like, that man is tired. He
yeah.
gotta be
I
tired.
mean, that's not even to mention the car accident, the fist fight.
Right.
He was almost killed. He had to kill like 3 people. Like
It's an old
there's
man,
a
man.
lot going on for him. Yeah, and again, team no sleep. Um, so he didn't really stand a chance. But even then, he breaks the glass and he's pouring glass all over the floor by the entrance of the room, in hopes
Mhm.
of the crackling glass waking him up if anyone comes in the room. In which Elliot's like, come on, dude, like, seriously? He's like, hey, gotta get it how you live. Um, Regardless, they kind of lay down and um get a really cool moment. They kind of talk for a little bit, and he asks her like, are you sure you're all right with the whole like Brian thing from earlier? Uh, I know it's hard when you kill somebody or hurt somebody. I think is what he said. Um, and you got to pee, baby. Okay, go pee here. Boom. Yes, there are like real lights in the dad pad. It's crazy, right? Um, but anyway, so he tells her like, "Hey, I know what it's like to hurt someone," and she's like, "Well, yeah, I have too, and and I don't want to talk about it." Um, which is
Which is
kind of
like,
interesting,
mhm.
a little different from the games. Like, any idea what she might be referring to on your end?
I'm not sure. So I remember that one DLC that came out for the first game where she interacted with the one little black girl.
Riley.
And they were like a Karis Riley.
Mhm.
I don't know if that'll be that situation exactly, because I if didn't that DLC take place before she met Joel? or was it after the fact? I can't remember.
So both. So the story with Riley takes place before she meets Joel. In fact, that happens before she actually ends up in the care of Marlene. And they'll go into more detail, I'm sure, as we get to that episode in the show. But
That'd be my best guess about what, like, maybe not hurting Riley specifically, but somebody, or maybe them adding in a character or taking a side character like they did with Bill and Frank and expounding upon that and making it a whole
yeah,
little arc.
or maybe just, or my assumption is maybe they're going to kind of change around the fate of how the Riley thing plays out. You know, and I don't want to say too much, but there probably comes a point where they kind of get into some type of physical altercation, and she kind of does what she has to do to make it out on top. So maybe, but regardless, she says she doesn't want to talk about it, and you know, Joel's like, all right, I've told you a million times I don't want to talk about anything, so you know, it's cool. I'm gonna leave it alone. So he rolls over, and we actually get a funny joke. What was it? It was she's
the
like,
Scarecrow.
oh yeah, there were two of them. So the first one was, why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was a stand-in.
He was outstanding in his field.
Yeah, there we go. He was outstanding in his field, which was a little smirk. But then we got the really good one, which is cool because that was like almost the first laughs that they had together. But then she follows up and she asks him, well, no, she comes out, which is funny because this one comes in out of the blue. Like, it was very unexpected, and I didn't think it was one of the jokes at all. But as he lays down and closes his eyes, she just out of the blue, she's like, "Hey, Joel, did you know that diarrhea is genetic?" And he's like, "What?" Which at the same time, I'm like, what
And she started out, she was like, Joel, I have a very serious question to ask you. And I was like, oh man, this is like some childish stuff right here, man.
Right. So I'm sitting here and but when she says that, like, diarrhea is genetic, I'm like, what is she talking about? Which I'm totally the idiot that falls for it. And and as soon as Joel's like, what? It's like, yeah, it runs in your genes.
Yeah. That killed me, man.
Yeah, it did. And it was obviously a fun moment because he sits there and he holds on for dear life,
trying not to. She knows he's got him. She's like, got you.
Yes, it was a wonderful moment. Obviously he cracks under the pressure, and they both sit there and they laugh, hysterically. Which comedy is few and far between in this world, especially if you're not in some type of quarantine zone, I would assume. But yeah, it was a pretty cool moment, and it really kind of solidifies that this Joel and Ellie are becoming the Joel and Ellie that we know and love. But anyway, they finally fall asleep and they wake up because Ellie wakes up at gunpoint. Joel wakes up, and we have baby Sam with the Yistel holding it the way that Joel showed Ellie to hold it so that he wouldn't drop it from recoil. So we know that baby Sam with the Raphael face mask painted on his face, he means business.
Right. One thing I will say, I think we forgot about it. It was the little tidbit about Joel's losing hearing on his right ear, I believe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was like a little line. And
because I was wondering why they brought that up, and then you see when he wakes up, he's sleeping on his left side, on his left ear. So he had his right ear up. That's why he didn't hear the glass go off, and they snuck up on him.
Yeah,
because I guess he saw he was just like really tired from the whole day where he just like rolled over, I guess, by accident in his sleep. And I was like, oh, that was a cool way. I mean, it was like a really quick setup and an answer to why he didn't hear it, but I thought it was done very smoothly.
Yeah, that was and I didn't even catch that. That was kind of slick. But nonetheless, it was a fun episode. We had plenty of like little Easter eggs, things of the sort in there. So at this point, where I usually like to go is I'm gonna bring you over to the official Blur Lines Media grading scale,
Right.
where we're both gonna give the episode a grade, um, based on your own personal opinions. So we have a 1 to 10 scale, and there are lines here or words here that kind of go with each of them. So there is a 10, which is a masterpiece. So that alleviates the pressure of you having to call anything perfect. Even a masterpiece can have an issue here or there.
Right.
9, which is amazing. 8 is great. 7 is good. 6, okay. 5, mid. 4, mediocre. 3, turtleneck. Yeah, I went with turtleneck because for some reason turtlenecks are still around. Someone out there is keeping them in business. So I'd
And
imagine that maybe someone could still like a 3 despite the fact that most people don't want anything to do with it.
look, I'm very much so a guy that will wear the turtleneck with the blazer combo, or the
You
turtleneck
know
with the
what?
single gold
And
chain.
I've worn a turtleneck in my day or two as well. But then at the same time, if you see bro with a turtleneck on, you're gonna be like, look at this dude with this turtleneck. You know, like but yeah, we got 2 is terrible, and then 1 is Superman 64 bad.
Oh God.
Yeah. And at that point, it's broken, it's irredeemable, and you have to kill it with fire. Um, so on a scale from 1 to 10 on the Blur Lines Media ranking scale, where are you gonna put this episode?
I'd put this at 8 grade. I feel like this episode was something that everybody that is a fan of the series would appreciate, where it's you're just getting to see Ellie and Joel bond and become, like you said earlier, what we're accustomed to. And it's just done in a really charming way. The dialogue is done in a really charming way. They literally are copying scene for scene, like favorite moments that fans have, and doing it well. It's great. It was a great episode to me.
Yeah, yeah. I can agree. For me, if not for so many moments, I would have given it a 7. But what saves this
Mm.
episode and makes it a great episode for me is the fact that somehow, despite the fact that we've added in Kathleen and Secret Agent Tommy, that's really not Tommy, they managed to like shove a lot of the video game Easter eggs and hints and clues in there in a really subtle way that if you don't know any better, you wouldn't know. So like cuz I mean it's 2023 and like shame on you, but there's still somebody out there that is going to like if you're playing a video game and you catch feels for it, like chances are mom's going to come in but oh my god, it's just a stupid video game. Like those people are still out there.
My mama know better now. We went through that phase already.
Oh yeah, good for you. For me, I got my mom where one day she came over and the TV behind me does like 4K at 120. So one day she came over and I actually put on, I think it was Miles Morales, and I put it on the 4K 120 frames per second mode. So it's super clean, crispy, smooth as butter. And she's sitting here watching it and doesn't really realize until I slip up and pause the game, and she's like, like she literally like almost spit her drink out. She's like, this is a game, and I'm like, yeah, man, we done made it past Super Mario, ma. Yeah,
Uh,
So she kind of gets it now as well. Um, but anyway, yeah, I think that's what kind of did it is that they did those little moments in a way that as a gamer and fan of The Last of Us, you can appreciate it. But if you are not big into video games and you just maybe stumbled upon this because it somehow made its way into the House of Dragons TV
mhm.
time slot, you can still appreciate it. So yeah, that's what kind of ended up giving me the 8 out of 10 opposed to the 7 here. Um, so my next question is we have an idea of what's coming for episode 5. Which in case you guys did not hear yet, the Super Bowl is on Sunday, so they actually made an announcement that episode 5 is actually going to go live on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. um,
Ooh,
which which
yeah.
pushes my editing schedule ahead. Those bastards.
Yeah.
I
Oh
know
man.
it's
Editing under
crazy.
pressure is hell.
You want look in the since January 24th, I have done 10 videos.
Ooh.
Three episodes of this show, which each of them is at least an hour long. And then 3 game reviews, and then like a couple other random things. So when I tell you that I've been running through projects like an insane person,
And you pump them out fast too. I'll hit up Captain Nick and I'll be like, hey man, you think Greg wants to do this review? He's like, he's already got it done. I was like, what? You already
man,
got how? What when?
look,
Look.
man,
I'm like, man, dude, buddy he is working fast. You are
I
good at what you do.
I, I appreciate it, man. I try to get it how I live, and for me, the biggest thing at this point is finding the time to finish the games, or at least play a big enough chunk of them where you
Mhm.
know. But regardless, the next question I like to ask is, with the next episode, we kind of have an idea of where things are headed. We've got in the preview of the next episode, they did confirm that the bloater is coming from out of the ground. But we also know that that Henry and Sam have entered the chat.
Mhm.
Do you predict that this episode is going to deviate heavily from what we would expect from the game, or do you think that it's going to stay pretty honest and true to the source material here?
I think this one will probably be a little bit more honest because one of the bigger moments. We've had big moments beforehand, but the first bloater encounter to me seems like a moment that you don't want to change up too much. I mean, maybe we'll see relationships being formed in a different type of way, probably.
Yeah,
But as far as the main events, I think it'll stay pretty loyal to the soil.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. But I also have a feeling that it might change a bit. Like
Mm,
you, I think it might just like episode 3, the story behind it changed radically, but the outcome was the same. You know, in the game you get Bill, he gives Joel a car at the end of the day, and Frank is dead. And in the show,
man,
Frank and Bill are dead and they leave a car for Joel. So it didn't really change Joel and Ellie's adventure at all, while changing Bill and Frank's to the utmost. And I
and I want to get on that really quickly. If I
yeah,
wasn't here for that episode, man, that I've only cried at film or any kind of thing probably once in my life. Well, twice now. Was once during Marley and Me, the ending of that movie
still
when he
haven't
was a
seen it, and I
doctor.
will not see it now because I have 2 dogs.
Don't do it. You will scar yourself for life. I
I won't.
can't. I haven't since. In this episode, this well 3 times because this and Up, the Up intro. This is like very similar to me, where I was like, man, you told this love story in this post-apocalyptic world, and somehow made me care about these two characters so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it went drastic. That episode went
So
drastically different than I thought it would.
let me ask you this: what part broke you?
The part that broke me was the ending where Frank is, yeah, Frank is pretty much telling Bill like, hey, I want to die. I gotta go.
Yeah,
And Bill's usually the hard ass for, again, everybody knows a guy like that where he's stoic, he's hard, he tries to hide his emotions, and when you see him just like collapse and like, no, I need you, I can't do this without you. I'm like, man,
yeah,
boy, you know
that
how
was hard.
much. Oh man, I was like, no, bro, what you mean? Like, you'll be okay. You can, no, man.
You know, and I'm happy that that part did not get me. There were a couple parts where I'm like clenching fists, gritting teeth, like, oh man, nah. But the part that actually got me was the damn strawberries, man.
Oh God,
Like,
yeah.
it was the cinematography behind it, the score was perfect, the lights like shining through the vines, and they have that bite, and there's just that moment of like pure happiness and joy, and they like laugh, and like, especially like if you've played the games or you've been around and you've grown to love these characters, like we don't see them in that light much, and it was just so well performed. Like that part got me like, oh, I choked up so bad. Ah,
And this is
Gosh.
something we preach about on Then and Now a lot, because we have a lot of, we feel like one of the main things that people complain about is the pushing, or what people perceive to be like the wokeness agenda, as far as making everything gay, making everything woke. This is how you tell a story that involves two people from the LGBTQ community, in which them being gay is part of the story, yes, but you're
Yeah.
focused on them as individuals, and you're telling a story with them where that's not something just been reiterated over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It is just done well. Like, I can tell you a bunch of different things about them as individuals before I even get to their sexuality.
Yeah, and that's what made it so interesting, is because it wasn't intrusive at all. Like,
Mhm.
we actually talked about this on Blerd Lines podcast yesterday. And I brought back to like how Empire did it, and I felt like that was so much more intrusive, because you have the scene on Fox TV, on Fox, where Jesse Smollett, his boyfriend, is cheating on him at a party, and they show on Fox dude on his, like, obviously didn't like show it, but show
Mhm.
dude on his knees in front of another man bopping his head. And it's like, do we have to get here? Like,
Mm.
on cable television, not even cable, on basic TV? Like, what? Like,
Even the parts it got to in
yeah.
within that episode, it was done tastefully to me. It's like
Yeah, it was so
the cutaway was
tasteful.
fine. Yeah, I was like, man,
Yeah. So yeah,
that's one of the better episodes of television I've ever seen in my entire
yeah,
life.
that was apex for television. So I absolutely 100% agree with you there. But we could go on about The Last of Us all day.
Yes,
Because The Last of Us is a wonderful IP, and it is full of wonderful characters and stories. But we can't, because we've ran out of episode. So with that, see, Diesel, where can they find you, man?
man, you guys can find me on the Then and Now podcast over on YouTube, as well as pretty much any social media platform you can think of, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. Just the Then and Now podcast, you'll find us there,
Okay.
and I'll be wherever that is.
So is the YouTube channel youtube.com/@ then and now podcast?
Yes, sir.
All right, there we
We got a
go.
lot of stuff coming. We got a lot of stuff cooking up, and I'm excited. I'm excited.
Definitely so. So yeah, guys, I definitely want to thank you guys so much for stopping by today to kick it with me and your boy C Diesel, as we broke down episode 4 of The Last of Us. Stay tuned for next week, because of course we will be breaking down episode 5. I've got to figure out a guess, and I've got less time to get it done now. It's crazy.
I
Uh
got a recommendation for you if you don't already have
yeah,
somebody.
yeah. We'll get that done off the air. But you guys have a wonderful day, evening, week, whatever it is going to be, and we will catch you next week.